the question is, what sound bites can we start using against critical race theory? Because explaining it and rationalizing isn't going to get us anywhere. We need like sound bites that say, you know, to try to start combating this.
One soundbite that I think has worked well in my experience is racism is always wrong and has no place in our public institutions.
Yeah.
And then another as a follow-up, say, hey, look, the beauty of this bill is that it would prevent the Ku Klux Klan from organizing a school curriculum, and it would also prevent the critical theorists from organizing a curriculum. Racism from the left or the right is always wrong.
Yeah. How I've explained it in a really quick way is to say that Martin Luther King said that we should judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Critical race theory does exactly the opposite. It tries to reverse Martin Luther King to say we only should judge people by the color of their skin rather than the content of their character.
Mr. Lindsay, you were...
yeah. Well, I mean, I can back up what Carlin just said also. The idea of having these things that you're talking about are actually detailed by Robert J. Lifton, who is a cult expert and dealt with the cult and the Cultural Revolution in China. And he explains that they're called thought-stopping techniques. It is a deliberate technique activists are trained in and use, and they have to be answered by kind of the same sort of thing. And the ones that were just presented are great. It's useful, by the way, to know that the slogan one of the major slogans during the Civil Rights Movement in 1963 was "I am a man." The sign said "I am a man." It didn't say "I am black." It said "I am a man." So it was a call to colorblindness. There's a memorial to that in Memphis, which you can look up online since you're in New Hampshire and probably won't see it in person anytime soon. But what I wanted to say was something to Bob's question just a moment ago. Is that the only thing that I've ever found that works to get people to understand what's happening is that you have to give examples. You have to show, not tell. You have to show this is what happened at Coca-Cola. This is what happened at Sandia National Laboratory. This is what's happening in the California schools where they're literally making people chant to the Aztec god of death or whatever it is. This is actually what's happening. And then with the theory, this is why I did that when I spoke earlier. These are the actual quotes. For that purpose, the book Critical Race Theory and Introduction, which is a short, easy to read book at the undergraduate textbook level. I can send the title so it's easy to remember. It's like 170 pages. The first 30 pages are just an overwhelming treasure trove of explaining what critical race theory is. And then you can pull out and say, no, it openly says that it's against the concept of rights on page 23. It openly says, here's the sentence. It openly says it's against the concept of constitutional neutrality on page 3. Here's the sentence, et cetera, et cetera. And when you show people and you say, this isn't a fringe book, this is the standard textbook, that tends to get people to realize something is badly wrong here. And if you can connect that to practical examples, like where they're making kids line up according to their privilege, or where I've been contacted by about 3,000, mostly Indian American women, primarily, but they have to go through these things now called brown fragility training, where they're to interrogate their anti-blackness as a brown person, and then to explain their compelled speech, to deal with their feelings of defensiveness around having to do this if they don't want to participate. When you can give concrete examples, and any one of us on the panel would have a bunch of those. When you can give concrete examples, people connect with it.
So we should include that in the handout, I think, for sure, for the reps. I'm going to bring Representative Tony Likas in, and Mike, I see you have your hand up. Do you want to fill in something that?
Yeah, just quickly, one of the arguments that proponents of critical theory use is that they're being compassionate and they're trying to address centuries of oppression and so forth. But that is actually just not true, because they don't want individual success. They are on the record as saying they don't want individual success, because that is the individual and his family or her family joining the system. What they want is collective effort to destroy the system. So we can meet that argument right away when they say, you're just not being compassionate. No, they're not being compassionate. They don't want individual success. They want to change the system. This is what they want.
I used to hear the term systematic racism, and I used to think, well, that sounds reasonable, because there is racism. Sometimes the police are racist, or and they have been for decades, right? But what they really mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the fundamental roots of our American system, going back to the signing of the Declaration of Independence, have been to perpetuate racism and sexism. All of the structure of those institutions are designed to perpetuate racism and sexism, and that in order to get rid of it, we have to fundamentally uproot and remake our entire system. That's really what they're calling for when they say that term.
Yes, if you believe that America is systemically, institutionally, and structurally racist, then the only logical conclusion is to change the institutions, the structures, and the system, which is a fancy word for the way everything works. And the reason why they must denigrate the founding and the founding documents is because that Constitution, that old Constitution, gets in the way of the things they want to do. So I just had a debate on NPR the other day and with a professor at Georgetown. And the first thing he said when I said, well, the Constitution won't allow you to do that, he said, well, the Constitution also said that I was 3/5 human. And of course, he's misrepresenting that because it was obviously the slave owners who wanted to have 5/5. This was a measure to limit the power of the slave owners and the racists. So we have to know the facts to be able to counter them right away, because we have the facts and we have goodness on our side, I believe.